There's a half second between the spike and the spiral, and most people blow right past it without even knowing it was there. If you never learn to use that half second, your body keeps making the first move for you. Not because you're broken, not because you're weak, because no one ever showed you the gate that was there. And without it, every spike becomes a story. Every notification becomes evidence. Every tight chest becomes a verdict about your life. You don't spiral because something is wrong with you. You spiral because you never had a place to stand between the feeling and the reaction. That's the cost of missing the threshold. Not drama, not claps, just a slow, steady loss of your own first move. Your body stays braced, your thoughts keep running ahead of you, and the gap between who you are and how you respond gets wider, one ordinary Tuesday at a time. I'm an analytical CPA by training. My brain is wired for systems, for logic, for finding the mechanism behind the result. And for years, I used that same brain to try to think my way out of the spike, to analyze the reaction before it finished happening. It didn't work. Not because the analysis was wrong, because the body doesn't wait for the analysis to catch up. I know this pattern, not from a textbook, not from a certification, from standing at that desk, heart drumming, hand on the surface, realizing I was already halfway into the spiral before I knew I'd entered it. That's where this comes from, not a theory, the actual experience of learning slowly and imperfectly that the threshold is real and that you can learn to use it. Here's the thing most people get wrong about anxiety on the spike. They think the goal is not to feel it, to be the kind of person who doesn't get the tight chest, the tunneled attention, the urge to react. But that's not the goal. And honestly, that's not even possible. The spike is not the problem. The spike is the bell at the temple door. In the ancient world, you didn't walk into a sacred space without marking the crossing. There was a threshold, a physical line between the street and the sanctuary. You paused there. You acknowledged that you were moving from one world into another. Your nervous system has that same structure built in. The spike is not your enemy. It's your body saying, we're at the gate, something requires attention. The question has never been how to stop the bell from ringing. The question is whether you hear it as a signal, or whether you're already through the door and halfway down the hall before you know you've moved. That moment between the spike and the spiral, that is the threshold. And it's trainable. So what's actually happening in that half second? What's the body doing? Your chest tightens before your mind knows why. Your attention narrows. Your shoulders rise slightly, like something is coming. That's not malfunction. That's your body's oldest protection system doing exactly what it was built to do. It scans, it senses a signal, and it prepares. All before you've consciously registered what the notification even said. The problem is not in the preparation. The problem is that the system was built for threats that require immediate physical response. And it doesn't know the difference between that and an email. So the body braces. The mind picks up the brace and starts building a story. And the story accelerates the brace. And the brace confirms the story. That's the loop. For years, I assumed the loop was just who I was. I assumed some people were naturally calm and the rest of us were just running faster on the same track. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that the loop has a hinge, a small one. It's easy to miss. It's the moment between the first sensation and the first thought. That fraction of a second where the body is fired but the story hasn't started. That's the hinge. That's the threshold. That's where the whole thing can shift. Not dramatically, not perfectly, but actually. So here's what you actually do with the hinge. 3 things, simple ones. You don't need anything. You don't need to be in a quiet room. You don't need to be ready. First, you notice the spike, the buzz in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the feeling that everything is suddenly urgent. Don't fight it. Don't explain it. Just name it, quietly, to yourself. I'm at the threshold. That naming does something. It creates a small amount of distance between you and the reflex. Not a wall, just an inch. Second, 3 slow, deliberate breaths. Not deep cleansing breaths, not a performance, just 3 slow ones, one after another. They might not erase the feeling. The chest might still be humming. and that's fine. The breaths are not there to make the feeling stop. They are a small, practical ritual. They mark the crossing from automatic reaction into chosen response. That's all they need to do. Third, in that thin slice of space you've opened, you listen for the quieter voice, not the part of you that's running headlines, the part that never rushes, the part that doesn't catastrophize. Call it your higher self, your deeper wisdom, your inner priest or priestess. It honestly doesn't care about the label. You're not asking for a revelation, you're asking it for one sentence. What is the smallest true thing I can do next? Then you turn that into one action you can take in the next 10 minutes. Not a life overhaul, one concrete move that belongs to the wiser story, not the old one. 3 breaths, 1 sentence, 1 move. That's threshold training. When you practice this, not perfectly, not every time, but with some regularity, something starts to shift. Not dramatically, not overnight. Your body starts trusting that it doesn't have to stay braced all the time. The spike still comes, but it stops being the whole story. You start catching the hinge earlier. What used to be invisible becomes something you can actually feel. A small, recognizable sensation that says, "We're at the gate." Your thoughts don't stop, but they stop running so far ahead of you. The spiral still has an entrance. You just start noticing the door before you're already inside. And here's the part that surprised me most. Honestly, the 3 breaths don't feel like a technique after a while. They feel like a return. Like something your body already knew was waiting for you to remember. The quieter voice gets easier to hear. Not because it gets louder, because the noise around it softens. You stop making every spike into evidence about your life. You stop treating every tight chest as a verdict. You start having a first move that's yours. Chosen, not reflective. That's what changes. Not everything and not instantly. Just that. Here's a question I want you to sit with today. In the moment the spike flares, before the story starts, what is your body actually asking for? Not what your mind says the problem is, what the body in that first half second is actually reaching towards. Sit with that. There's no wrong answer. If you want to go deeper with this kind of work, check the description. I keep my current offerings there, the things that actually help you work with your mind in a real, grounded way.